Well, I think it is now relatively obvious that Senator Mitch McConnell is never coming back to the United States Senate. Now, of course, his name might stay attached to the seat until January. Formally or strictly speaking, he will be one of the two senators from Kentucky. His staff may keep putting out written statements, supposedly dictated by Mitch McConnell or whatever. We may even get another carefully staged picture, but in every meaningful sense, like in the sense of, is he going to be acting as senator in his capacity to represent the Kentucky people? Of course not. Mitch McConnell's Senate career appears to be completely over. The very widely discussed August 3rd special election deadline has passed yesterday. It's now August 4th. And that was supposedly the final practical opportunity for him to resign, to declare the seat vacant, and to organize a special election, which might happen alongside the November election, maybe before. There would be some discretion for the governor, Andy Beshear, but that date has come and gone. Now, Governor Andy Beshear says that August 3rd was never a binding legal deadline and that it doesn't have any legal impact on his options. And in a sense, that's true. Before August 3rd and earlier, he cannot declare a special election. August 4th and later, he must declare a special election, but the law doesn't say when the special election must be. In any case, that's come and gone. Now, here's one really interesting thing. There is an argument to be made, and more Democrats are making it, that even though in Kentucky, you hear this thing, Kentucky changed the law. The governor cannot appoint anyone to fill vacant Senate seats. There must be a special election. And it is true that that took place. But I've spoken to legal experts who say, listen, this has never really been tested. And if the governor were simply to say, especially because Mitch McConnell is absent, if the governor were simply to say, I'm appointing someone to fill this seat, the seat is effectively vacant, here's who I'm appointing, it's a Democrat. You and I might go, well, no, Kentucky changed the. What some legal experts are saying is there's a conflict. The conflict is based around whether U.S. senator is considered a statewide office or not. This is very technical. The technicalities don't even really matter to us. The point is, there are a lot of people now saying, Andy Beshear should appoint someone. Let the courts fight it out. And in fact, we have a petition at petition.davidpakman.com with something like 70,000 signatures saying that is exactly what Andy Beshear should do. So if that's interesting, consider signing that, petition.davidpakman.com. So the point is, there is no magic solution here, but politically, Republicans kind of got through the most sensitive moment without seeing the seat become formally vacant. McConnell is completely absent. He's not been seen or heard from in terms of publicly speaking since he was hospitalized in mid-June after he supposedly fell, briefly lost consciousness, at some point developed mild pneumonia, and he's been in rehab and he's not medically cleared to go back to the Senate. He has missed dozens of Senate votes. Now, as a reminder, his office released 2 pictures, no video, no audio, no interview, no direct demonstration that he is even cognitively capable of performing the job. The first picture showed Mitch McConnell appearing to hold that day's newspaper, sort of like when a hostage has to prove when a picture is taken, they have him hold a newspaper. And so he did that, sitting alongside his wife, Elaine Chao. And then later in July, we had a second picture. And internet sleuths, as we talked about last week, have looked at Elaine Chao's clothes, Elaine Chao's hair, and they've said, it's kind of interesting that she wore the same shirt on different dates in July. Of course, that proves nothing. People wear shirts more than once. But you don't have to be a rocket scientist to notice that something is wrong here. Something is wrong. The medical update says Mitch McConnell continues to rebuild his strength. Okay. It's kind of an unusual thing to say in the absence of any actual proof that he is still even aware of his surroundings. And that refrain conspicuously avoids what is really the central question here. Can Mitch McConnell currently speak? Does Mitch McConnell have the cognitive capacity to reason right now? Could he even remotely carry out his duties of representing the Kentucky people in the U.S. Senate? Now, Kentucky is entitled to 2 functioning senators. We don't need, nor arguably are we entitled to, every intimate medical detail, but I do think that proof that you can even remotely do the job is an appropriate request. Now, Salon's theory, they have an article. Salon's theory is there is no brilliant Republican plot. There's no subterfuge here. The explanation is McConnell can't really communicate or explain or talk much about what's going on, and nobody else can just kind of say, well, we got to let this go and say that he can't do the job and get a resignation tendered. And, powerful politicians come to believe they own the office. Their families, their staffs become accustomed to the status that sometimes surrounds being a high-ranking senator. And if you admit that the end has arrived, you surrender all of that. So they don't do it. And Mitch McConnell is retiring in January. The Senate is going into August recess. There's only best case scenario, a few working months left. Maybe Mitch McConnell can make a final ceremonial appearance. This is another one that people have been emailing me about, saying the plan here is to do whatever is possible to wheel him into the Senate so he can, because remember, you don't have to speak to vote. You can just give a thumbs up. He could give a thumbs up or thumbs down on some vote, and it'll be his final appearance. Maybe that's the plan. But the idea that Mitch McConnell is going to return as a functioning senator, attending hearings, navigating the Capitol, giving speeches, asking questions that he understands, I don't believe that it's going to happen. His office is occupied. His staff has a job. His name is on the door. But I do not believe that Mitch McConnell in any serious way is coming back to the Senate. Agree, disagree? What do you think is going on? Leave a comment. Send me an email, info@davidpakman.com. And if you believe that it is time for Andy Beshear to screw what the law says, appoint a Democrat, argue that what Republicans did in Kentucky does not apply to Senate seats, and let the courts fight it out, sign the petition at petition.davidpakman.com. One of our sponsors today is the new book by George Koch called Bullies, Parasites, and Slaves. Bullies take from others to benefit themselves, and they pretend to be our only defenders as a ploy to get our support. And the instant a bully doesn't need us, we become their next victims. We need to wise up and see this. Parasites are the people hiding behind titles and offices, subsidizing their wealth by ruthlessly underpaying everybody below them, like the CEO who makes more before lunch than you make in a year. And then there's the hybrid bully parasite king who sends the poor to war, to conquer, to kill, to enrich himself and his friends. That's what this book exposes, and it really nails it. Replacing exploitation with mutual care. You can get Bullies, Parasites, and Slaves in paperback, ebook, or audio by going to bps.online or text my last name Pakman to 511 511. The link is in the description.